Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. Tonight is going to be a little different. We're going to harken back basically to June 19th of this year when I had an amazing guest on, Dan Toth. We're going to talk to him about the B.I.G, Bigfoot Investigative Group, about the travels that he does about next year. And we're also going to have a tribute to the recently passed Dr. Jeff Meldrum, an incredible Bigfoot and Sasquatch researcher from Boise State University who passed recently at the age of 67. I had the fortunate encounter to meet him, and sadly, he is now passed away. So let's go to the folks that are in chat here, and let's see just who is here so far. Rick Robinson is in chat first. The unpleasant blind guy is here. Ricky Robinson, PZ. The Phantom is here. Let's get ready to rumble and rock. The Mission Ready Men, Earl Jackson, is here. And Jersey Joe is here. And the Ever is late, but has awakened. So in any event, let me put now to the stage the act you've known for all these years. This is Dan Toth. Now, for those who are unfamiliar, I spoke to Dan back on June 19th of 2025. And what happened is that I drove, let's see if I get this pretty accurate, I drove 2,114 miles in order to meet Dan right here and Dr. Meldrum. And let's see, it's backwards. And to go to the B.I.G conference, the Bigfoot Investigative Group conference. So Mrs. BZ and I, we rented a car. We drove from North Idaho. We stopped overnight in Billings, Montana. We continued on to Broomfield, Colorado, and we went to the May 24th B.I.G conference, the Bigfoot Investigative Group. And that was where Dr. Meldrum spoke. That's where Dan Toth was. And we also had a host of other folks. And so, let me go up here just a minute. I had the fortunate chance to meet Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a wonderful, wonderful guy. And this is Dr. Meldrum and myself right here. We miss him already. He was a huge, not just a legend, but a huge intellect in the field of anthropology. And so Dan created, let me put this on the screen if I can right now. Dan created the B.I.G, Bigfoot Investigative Group. You can find that at BigfootInvestigativeGroup.com. Bigfoot Investigative Group.com. And they had a conference in Broomfield. Next year, it'll be in Coeur d'Alene. And I think it'll be wonderful. Sadly, Dr. Meldrum will not be with us. As opposed to last time, now you were here June 19th, and you introduced yourself to a whole bunch of people. But for those folks who were not here at the time, Dan Toth, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how it is that you came to create the B.I.G or Bigfoot Investigative Group?
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. And good evening, everybody. Welcome. Great to be here with you. It's an honor and a privilege. I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia. My dad was a naval officer, and I grew up at Little Creek, Virginia. So I was a paper boy when I was a kid. Long story short, I met a lot of SEAL team guys on my paper route that were stationed at the Little Creek Naval Amphibious Base there in Virginia Beach when I was a boy. And I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, they just inspired the heck out of me to be a SEAL. So they taught me how to work out, and I got motivated, and I went in the Navy out of high school in July of '75, which has been 50 years now. And I went through SEAL training and made it. In fact, I graduated from SEAL training 2 years to the day that I graduated from high school at Cox High School in Virginia Beach, Virginia, on June 9th of '75. Then I graduated from BUD/S training in Coronado, class 92, on June 9th, '77. So I did 25 years as a Navy SEAL, and I also became a pro strength coach, did an internship, 4 years, University of Colorado, in speed, strength, and conditioning. I worked at the Steelers facility in Pittsburgh as a pro strength coach. And I went back to the teams on staff, Warcom staff, back in it's already been 11 years ago. Next week. Yeah, I went back to work on Warcom SEAL staff in Coronado in September of 2014, and then did that until December of 22 and retired. But during all those years, I was really inspired and had a huge, like a lot of people, had a huge curiosity and, fervor for this Bigfoot enigma. So when I fully retired in December of 22, I contacted some guys that I actually served with in the teams and said, hey, I've got this idea. And I was surprised because all of them came on board. So that's how I created came up with BIG, because I decided, 3 years ago almost to go, at a professional level, because for years I did it as a hobby. And I studied the Bigfoot enigma, followed Dr. Meldrum and some other people for like a good 50 years, 45, 50 years. So here we are now doing it, active ourselves. And we've been almost at it now for 3 years, coming up on 3 years. And we've made a lot of incredible, discoveries, incidents, sightings, filming, tree knocks, and I've had 3 close encounters with them now, 75 to no more than 90 feet away, a male and 2 females in the Red River, New Mexico area, and then also Hans Peak, Columbine area of Colorado, and then now this past summer in the Medicine Bow National Forest area of Wyoming. So, we'll get into more detail, but that's pretty much my story up to this point, Reader's Digest version.
Well, what happened to you that got you into deciding that, this is real? I had a cool damn career. I had a kick-ass career. As Terry Shepard said, he was a provider of high-quality violence.
Right.
And you were called to do what you were called to do, and now we understand how it is that you were associated with the SEALs. But that you can remember, how long was it that you've been interested in cryptids, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the career thing? You did all that you wanted to do there, and then you were lucky enough to be able to, let me start at the start again. When did you start becoming interested in Sasquatch and Bigfoot?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I've heard a lot of people say this that are involved in researching and investigating the Sasquatch enigma. And I mean, the first time I saw the Patterson-Gimlin film, I think I was probably about 15, which was 1972. But I saw it on In Search Of, the TV show with Leonard Nimoy. And then where I grew up at, in Virginia Beach, Virginia, we used to have an old drive-in theater there at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel and Shore Drive, And it was a place we used to go when I was a teenager. And I saw that movie one night there, The Legend of Boggy Creek. And I mean, I'm serious. I heard other people say this, but those 2 things really got me inspired, especially the Patterson-Gimlin film. And I really made a commitment to myself and planned on, when I was that age, that when I fully retire, someday I plan on living in Colorado and looking for them actively myself. So here I am. That's what I'm doing. And then I think that I was really motivated and inspired by kind of standing in the wings over the years, if you will, watching and following Dr. Meldrum's career. And, and especially when he went public a few years back with the Skookum cast and the Freeman stuff, everything he did over his career. And I thought, when I start doing this actively someday, when I'm fully retired, I'll get a hold of him and see if I can, team up with him or, get him as an ally. And that's what happened 3 years ago. We became good friends, and, he's been at 3 of our original 3 big conferences over the year, including this last one in May where you met him. So that's what got me going. And then I guess a big thing too is that I saw over the years with my background and everything that I guess I've kind of felt like I was amazed personally at the amount and the number of sightings and stories that I heard and I studied over the years. And it really intrigued me because some of these stories I watched, being honest about it, and I really, with my training and experience, I really got to the point watching some of these people tell these stories. I was like, man, these people aren't joking. I mean, they're not lying. So that got me going. And then when the evidence started showing up more and more, people like, the people at BFRO, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch, all these other organizations were doing their thing. I thought, wow, the evidence is overwhelming. But the big thing that got me was reading Doc Meldrum's book, Sasquatch Legend Meets Science. And I'm getting ready to read it again for like the 5th time. But when I read that book, especially the section where Dr. Meldrum spoke about in depth the dermal lines and the ridges and some of the tracks and the prints that they've recovered and found over the years, that really convinced me, because I thought to myself, you can't fake footprints. You can't fake, fingerprints, stuff like that. Well, maybe you could, but, finding stuff like that out in the wild with, footprints that are 13 to 17, 18 inches long. And, from the feet up, there's something standing there 650 to 1,200 pounds or more. That's what got me going. So all that together, and then about 2-3 years before I retired, I started getting really active and, studying it more, getting ready to jump into the fold per se. And that's what I did after I retired. So I started actively running big in January of 23, right after the holidays. So that's pretty much what got me going over the years and inspired me. And I'm, Doc Meldrum had a lot to do with it, being blunt about it.
You also have another couple of guys that are around you. Maybe you could tell about them or talk about them just for a brief moment. Mike McMahon and I think Scott Wolf, if I have my 2 names correct.
Right. Yeah, Mike and Scott, we served together years ago in the 80s and 90s. That's where we met. We were all SEALs together, and we served at SEAL Team 3 in Coronado. Mike and I deployed once in a Spec Ops deployment in 88. And, they got out. I retired in May of 99. We've just, stayed friends over the years. And when I started this, I contacted them 3 years ago. They came to my retirement party in December of 22 out in San Diego in California. And there were a couple of the guys that I approached and said, hey, let's do this. And they said, heck yeah, we'll do it. So Scott was just out here for my daughter's wedding.
And congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. She got married September 1st. And Scott came out a little early before his wife. And then we went to Medicine Bow for a few days and camped out and did some stuff. And we got some good tree knocks while we were there. And it's really amazing. I'll get into that later so I don't lose track, but that's the story. And Mike and Scott were also law enforcement after they left the teams. They became sheriff's deputies in Colorado and in Michigan. And Scott made a career out of it, and he retired August a year ago. Yeah, August a year ago. And then him and his wife moved to Florida. So he's living down in Florida now. Mike's out in Florida too. That's the story. Then there's a couple other guys that are part of the big staff that I served with. Billy Hill, and then Pat Howard. He's a retired Marine. We met when we were working Warcom staff from 14 to 22. And then a new member that just came on about a year ago was out in Colorado. He's an Army veteran, and we brought him on after he contacted me, Steve Brown, and things are just flowing along naturally. And we've been working these 3 areas just to let everybody know. What we do at Big is pretty high end, and I approach this from a SEAL perspective, and doing what I learned as a SEAL predominantly, and applying it to the actual overall investigation and research, which is pretty heavy duty, because on an average night I'll go out at sunset and come in at 2:30 to 4:30 in the morning. And we're non-reactionary, so people can understand that. And a lot of this is also, we're doing it based on Dr. Meldrum's guidance and counsel and recommendations. So we picked 3 areas, well, actually 2, and I collaborated and consulted with Doc when he was around and with us on that. So last 2 years, we've been focused on staying in the Red River, Bobcat Pass area of New Mexico.
Funny how that works out.
Yeah. And then the Hans Peak, Summit Creek, Columbine area of north central Colorado, which is beautiful. So I've stayed in those 2 places. I've had sightings, pictures, video, tree knocks. I had some close encounters, real close, where you could smell them. And then as time went on, and I started focusing on the Hans Peak area last year, a year ago in May. I had a male and a female there, and I know it's a male and a female because I was close enough to them. And I'm going to tell people candidly, as a retired SEAL, if this is the first time you've joined us, with me on here, in 2.5, 3 years of doing this, these things are real. They are real because I've been near them, I've seen them, I've heard them, I've smelled them. And the 2 that I've been kind of like trace following, if you will, for the last 1.5 years, I'm convinced now that they're moving north and south and ranging from the Hans Peak area of Colorado up into across the border in south central Wyoming into the Medicine Bow area out by Encampment and Battle. I've seen them out there. I've had tree knocks, and I can go into more detail on that later, but that's what we're doing, just so you understand. We don't, at Big, it's all pretty high-end SEAL stuff. So, if you weren't a SEAL, we don't really talk about how we're doing it, but keep it simple. I just go out and sit in the dark at night in a spot, and I don't move, and I let them come to me, along with every other thing that lives out there, from a black bear to a mountain lion to a lobo wolf and a moose.
You've had everything.
No, I've got it documented on my website too, where these animals have just walked right up to me sitting there in the dark. In fact, I got an incident that occurred this past May in Columbine area, Colorado. When I was out there, the moose walked up to me in the dark. It was a bull. And I just stood there, and he walked by me and around me. I was in the middle of this field meadow because he'd walked by me on the road, caught me by surprise coming down the hill. So I just stood there when he went by me about 10 feet away. And then he stopped and turned around and looked at me. He didn't do anything. And I started filming him on my thermal imager, which is on my website. you can look at it. And then he walked about 30 to 40 feet, turned around, looked at me one more time. And then he walked up on this little knoll that was in front of me. He just bedded down. Yeah, there you go. You're on the website. You can scroll down. I got some, yeah, there he is. That's the stills of it there where he was walking around me. But then the one below that, the black one, is where he's really super close. He's about not even 30 feet, 30 yards from me there. He just bedded down. And to be honest with everybody, I just stood in the dark and I talked to him just like I'm talking to you. I'm like, hey, nice night. Glad you haven't kicked me over a pine tree with your antlers. Nice bullwinkle. You know what I mean? And then he got up, which really blew my mind. That next picture there, through the thermal imager, when he got up, he started looking that way. And that was a sign to me. So I was like, what the hell's going on? And then if you look in that picture up there, you can see the 3 arrows. There were 3 things moving through the brush there that were stopped. They stopped and they were looking at us. And then they turned around and went away. And I don't know what they were. I can't really say. But with him there and them, I wasn't about to go out there and try to find out. So anyway, then you keep scrolling down. You can see how close. There's a doe with her 2 fawns. They used to come up, and you can see right there the 4 pictures down below. The mom's laying there looking at me in the 4 squares. And then on the left top there, that's a Lobo wolf that came up to me at Red River. They're very rare. And there's another picture of the moose, and then an elk. And then the next one down is at the pump house near the Chevron mine at Red River, New Mexico. And the yellow arrow there on the left, that's a Sasquatch standing in the trees there, the red blotch. I want to go back up. I want to go back the other way. Yeah. I don't know if you can see that, but if you look right there on that single cell below the moose and the elk, the red blotch there on the right through my thermal, yeah, that is a Bigfoot. And he's standing there looking at me through the trees. He's about 30 yards away, maybe 25 yards. And you can see that's his torso and his arms and his crotch. And I just sat there looking at him, and he bent over and looked at me, but it happened so fast that he turned around and went up the hill. So you can keep scrolling down if you want. That was Summit Creek. Yeah, Summit Creek this past early spring. Caught him peeking out from behind the tree there. You can see the yellow arrow pointing at the top of his skull. The one in the middle, you can see the very pronounced size of no neck, pointed head, exactly. And then he's huge. And you can see where the green arrow from the thermal imager was picking him up. He peeked out and disappeared, but it's kind of like I'm out there playing cat and mouse with him, trying to get him to the point, being blunt about it, where I think I'm on the verge of doing it too, that him and his mate are getting closer to me. And they're actually, I'll tell you more later, they're communicating. My theory panned out this summer, moving to Medicine Bow as a sidebar, because I figured that they were moving up that way for the summer, and I was right. And I also figured that they were at that lake, for the water source and the food source, because, animals that big need water. So the next one down in the middle there, that was at Summit Creek, Wyoming, and it just popped up there, and then he disappeared. You can see the X from the thermal imager is right on him, and that was quick. Sometimes they'll sit there and look at you when they're behind foliage, but when they're out in the open, they're gone. And I think that they can detect, in my opinion now, I think that somehow in their vision, they can actually detect the signature from the thermal imager. So the next one down, I caught the one by the pump house. That's Red River, New Mexico again. And the black right there, that's literally him taking a look at me from the trees. And then he turned around and walked away. And then the next one down is a still from the video that I took at 1:30 in the morning back on October 20th of 2023 at Bobcat Pass, New Mexico. I walked out in the field there that night at Bobcat Pass in a herd of elk. The elk got comfortable with me just being blunt about it, to the point where I could just walk out in the middle of the herd. And I was out there in the middle of the herd with them. I've got the video that you can watch on my website at BigfootInvestigativeGroup.com. But that's a still of the Sasquatch in the trees looking at me after he screamed. And then I came back 2 months later, and you can see I'm following the herd of elk again at Bobcat Pass. And where the yellow arrow is, that's him. Where when I was walking with the elk, you can see I'm right behind him. He popped up and he took off, and you can see the red dot from the signature on the thermal. That's his back, between his shoulders and down to his waist, and he was huge. I mean, you can see how tall he is compared to the elk, and he's probably 75 yards away. And then,
folks, we're talking to Dan Toth. Now, Dan, by the way, if you're interested, folks, I'm going to open up the phone line here just in a moment if you want to speak to Dan. One of the questions that James Harbin had in chat is, sorry about the off-the-wall question, but are some friendly and some are not so friendly? And do you believe that they may be interdimensional creatures?
No, well, I'm going to candidly, that's a good question, Jim. I guess I can call you Jim, Mr. Harbin. In my opinion, with the three, well, actually I've had 7 or 8, they're very friendly, but they're very timid and cryptid, if you will, shy and bashful. And they've presented no danger or shown any signs of violence or aggression to me. I've never seen them with red eyes. So I can't really answer that question, yes or no. And in my opinion, our main impetus at Big is to get close to them, to try to interact with them and document it. I don't know if they've got interdimensional ability or not on that, in reference to that question as well, because I've never seen that happen, so I really couldn't tell you. I mean, there's been people out there that claim that they do, but I've never seen it happen or occur, and so I really don't know if they do or not. So I hope that is, but I don't think they're violent. I mean, maybe if they're threatened, or maybe if, like any other animal, if you do something to threaten their young or their children, maybe, but no, I don't think they're violent at all, because I've had 5 close encounters with them now, where I was pretty close to a male August a year ago near Columbine, Colorado, on a logging road at about 11 o'clock at night. And I caught him pulling down the limb of a aspen tree to take a peek at me, because he was in the foliage of the trees, and he pulled the limb down with his hand so he could see me. And he was using that stuff for cover and camouflage, if you will. And I got a good picture of his face and his shoulders and his head, mouth, and eyes. You can clearly see it. And you can even see his hand up around the trunk of the aspen tree while he's standing there looking at me. Then later on in November, a few months later, I got the female standing in some pines in the edge of the road. In the snow, there were some pockets of snow where it had melted, and I caught her because I could smell her, and I took a shot of that area, and clearly you can see her stand there. And in that picture, you can even see her thumb like this sticking up with her fingers, where she's pulling down the branch of the pine tree to look at me. And at the bottom of the pine tree where the snow mound is, where she's standing, she's got one leg up and one leg back. And you can actually see the front of her toes in the snow. If you look at it close enough, you can see her toenails and her toes. It's pretty cool. And then when I was in Medicine Bow, where I focused at this past summer from May to just, matter of fact, I'm going back out there again next week before they close the road. The male and female, I'm pretty sure it's the same too, from down in Steamboat or Hans Peak Lake area, but they moved up that way, and I suspected that they might, and I moved up that way, and I've got video of them tree peeking at me down by Battle Lake at about 10 o'clock at night, I think it was. And then I got between them at a spot that I picked at a creek that they were tree knocking, and I was between them, and I documented that. Some of it you can hear the tree knocks that I documented and I put on my website under the big picture page on my website. But yeah, they tree knocked, and then when I heard them tree knock again on my second trip in July, I actually drove down the road from where I was in between them, and just about a minute. And I thought, okay, maybe if I turn around and come back, I'll catch one of whoever it is, male or female, but I thought it was female, crossing the road. And when I got back to my parking spot, I got out of my car. I walked over to the edge of the woods on the hillside in the dark. And sure enough, to my chagrin, intense, brutal, loud tree knock right behind me. And, you know, excuse my French, but I went, holy shit, she's behind me.
No kidding.
And I say she because you can tell the difference in the power and the intensity and the volume of the knock between the male and the female. You really can, because I've listened to it enough. So when she did that, I turned around and I thought she can't be more than 30, 40, 50 yards from me, if that. And I thought, damn, she got to cross that road quick. But then I got a little bit, adrenaline got going because I could hear her moving. And then she stopped. And then I heard a report with a response tree knock that was a lot louder, but you could tell it was up the mountain in the distance, probably, I don't know, maybe a little over a quarter mile away. And then after that happened, it was like it stopped and I heard her move and that was it. So I figured that she got across the road and she sent her boyfriend or her husband a knock saying, hey, I'm home free. I'm heading your way. It's okay. That's how I interpreted it. But I didn't hear nothing else that night. And I stayed out there till about 2:30 a.m., I think. Then I went over to Battle Lake and sat. And Battle Lake, you can always hear something. I've heard night screams out there 2 or 3 times out in the distance where they belt out those Bigfoot screams or howls or yells out in the middle of the night. So it's a heck of an area, and kept working it. And then right before Doc Meldrum died, I went out there, got some more tree knocks, and it was the first time that I got tree knocks during the day, during the daylight. And it was right on the side of the road because it was ironic. I pulled over to a spot where I was the night before, and it was really early in the morning. It was like 1:30 in the morning, yeah. And there were elk all around me. All these elk started coming around me. And I heard some tree knocks, but then they stopped. So I came back the next day and figured I'm going to take a look at this place and see, you know, what might be going on here in the daytime. And I found this huge deposit of scat right on the edge of the road in the gravel. And it was the last thing I worked with Doc Meldrum on, and we agreed that it was Sasquatch scat. It's huge, and I got a picture of it. But it was just put there, deposited overnight from the night before. So it was like the next afternoon, probably almost 12 hours later when I found it. And it was already pretty, what do you call it?
Desiccated.
Yeah, and it was from the heat because it was still hot. But the thing about that is, you look at the picture, you can see the marks in the gravel on the side of the road.
Now, is that the one that you sent me?
Yeah, that's the one. You can see the marks on the road where it left its part of its, yeah, that's it. You see the scat, that's huge. And you can see my phone there in my hand with my phone taking the picture there in the lower right corner. But the 2 marks in front of it off each edge at about 30 degrees, if you look at it closely, you can tell, especially the top one, you can see toes in the heel. That's the marks it left where it squatted to do its business, being blunt about it. And the header down there, the footer's hiding my foot for scale, but that thing's huge, and there's nothing out there that can deposit anything that big. And plus the composition of it and the stuff and the contents, we looked at it. So that's, believe it or not, real Sasquatch scat deposit or poop, whatever you want to call it.
We got a question from chat from Mr. Duffy 81. So Dan Toth, how long did it take you to find them once you assumed that they had moved up in elevation? And how long for you to find them when you decided that you were going to go ahead and follow them?
Yeah, the first, well, going back, May a year ago, May of last year, I started working in an area near Clark and stuff. You're welcome, Mr. Harbin. Yeah, you're welcome. I went to an area near Sand Mountain, near Clark, Colorado, and that's where I had my first encounter where he actually stood out and peeked and looked at me from a distance. And I saw him peek. He got out. And the pictures that I took of him over the next 2 months were the same exact outline profile images in 3 different spots where I'd picked based on Dr. Meldrum's input, because I spent a lot of time getting taught and groomed by Dr. Meldrum. And I did what he told me to do, and it worked. So if anybody's familiar with the Freeman film, Paul Freeman's film from '97, up there in Blue Mountains of Walla Walla, when the Bigfoot walks across in front of him and he goes, oh, there he goes. If you're familiar with Bigfoot stuff. Well, Paul made some stills of that video that he took in 1997 there. And the profile of the creature that I spotted May a year ago for the first time near Sand Mountain in Colorado fits the exact same profile of the Paul Freeman stills. And when I showed that to Doc when he was with us, that was a big wow. And so I saw him again about 3 weeks later, same profile. And that's when I started thinking, okay, he's getting familiar with me, or he knows I'm here. And again, I was pretty close to him, and as fast as these things can be, like a brown bear. What do they say? A brown bear can be on top of you in 5-6 seconds at 100 yards. I think something like that. But they never bothered me. So then I started figuring, based on just my training and my skill and stuff, where's he moving at through here? So I figured he was moving through that area and, staying away from like campgrounds, because there's a lot of people up there in the summer. So I started checking these areas where I suspected he would be moving, especially to a water source, because, everything needs water. And there's a huge creek that runs down that area, down into Columbine and out through Summit Creek. And sure enough, that's where we heard our first tree knocks August a year ago. And then we started seeing tree breaks. And we even had 2 tree breaks occur one night when we were out within just minutes. We drove down the road heading toward Big Red out there where they'd have the snowmobile staging area in the winter out there at Columbine on those logging roads that go back toward Big Red and Hog Park in that area. And it was amazing because we got out of the truck. I said, I'm going to sit here tonight. And I was with a friend of mine. She's a guide up there for 25 years, doing everything you can dream of. And right across the road where we were in the truck, wham, tree knocks. We heard 4 of them. And we heard him moving. And we were like, we couldn't have been no more than 50 feet from him. And I got on the other side of the truck because I was out of the truck walking on the road. She was parked. We had the lights off, engine turned off. And I got on the other side of the truck because I thought I don't want him to throw something at me in the dark. I didn't feel like hitting the head. So during this period of time, putting this all together the best I can for everybody and sharing it to you in detail, we found 4 tree breaks in the ensuing months that summer a year ago. And then it hit me. I started plotting the tree breaks, and we found like 9 of them in a 3-month period. And 2 of them occurred within minutes of just driving by. We came back and we're like, what? Look, the trees broke. What the hell did that? It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. So broke out a map of the Zirkle Mountains and the Steamboat or the Hans Peak area that I have in my collection, my library, and started plotting these daggone things. And I got 9 of them over 3 months, I think it was. And these 9 tree breaks made a straight, perfect line through the wilderness right east to west. And I think I showed that at the, I think I showed everybody that at the conference in May in my presentation. But, when I thought, okay, I got these, and I'm convinced that they're using these tree breaks as like blazes, directional signals or a trail marker. And once I started going in there in the winter, when winter and the fall set in, and the snow set in up there in the Columbine area, I found 3 really good, incredible sets of footprints that you saw that we shared at the conference in May. So I started putting it all together, and I thought, I wonder if they move from here anytime. And I talked to Doc about it, and he said, yeah, possibly, because me and Doc talked about a lot about them migrating or transiting, as they call it, because I think a lot of solitary Bigfoot sightings that people have made out in the open with them in the distance is, like Doc said, it's probably just one moving from point A to point B because it's ready to move to a new area, like other animals do. So I just got a wild hunch, and I thought, okay, next summer and spring, I'm going to see if they move from here after the winter and head up that way, for the summer, just to move like other animals do. And Eureka moved up there in May and started working the encampment, Wyoming to Battle Lake, and then over to Savory along that Route 70 that runs along the southern border of Wyoming. I worked that all summer and had all these incidents occur. So, a lot of this has got to do, I'm going to credit it. Like I talked to Doc, I was in his laboratory with him, July 15th, 16th, just pretty much 2 months before he passed away. And we discussed all this and everything. I don't have time to go into it in detail, but the stuff that Doc recommended that I do and taught me to do, I did it, kind of meshed it with my SEAL experience and everything. And it's really turning out to be incredible, including Wyoming this summer with the tree knocks. And then in July, I got a overwatch place out there on Highway 70 that runs from Battle Creek to Savory along the border. And on this lookout, you look down at Battle Lake, and there's a Thomas Edison monument there where he got the idea while he was fishing for the incandescent light bulb from the fiber on his cane pole. It's crazy monument. But I'd go and sit there and watch the lake at night. And in July, one night, sure enough, this male stands up, comes out of the trees, and you can see him in the video looking at me. He's huge. And the size of him with the pine trees, he's standing there looking at me. I've got a night thermal and ATN, and you can see him looking at me. You can clearly see his huge pointed head. And he goes from the right side of the tree to the left and keeps looking at me. And then he takes off, and you ought to see the speed of him going through the trees. But the thing about the video, when you watch it on my website, on the big picture link, it's called Tree Peak or Medicine Bow or Battle Lake Medicine Bow. When he leaves on the left side of the tree between these 2 huge pine trees, you'll see, if you watch the edge of the tree on the left real close, the back of the female, because she's standing there, and she turns and goes with him. So you can see them both take off. And then I took off from that spot and figured they're going up the creek, up the gully to get across the road. They're following the creek that dumps in there. I think it's called Dome Creek, Doane. But I got up there and, they were, I didn't hear anything, or I don't know if they were being quiet or nothing, but that's kind of stuff. So I really started thinking, and I thought, this has got to be the same 2, putting this all together from a year and a half. It's got to be the same 2 creatures that are, moving in that area and ranging. So
Dan got 3 questions now from chat. One is from James Harbin. Any comments on any other creatures? Dogmen, Washington State, overseas covert black ops. Not sure what that means, but any interaction that you may have had between anything, for example, in Washington State?
Well, you mean during my SEAL career or during BIG?
I'm guessing during your investigation into.
Yeah, I haven't been to Washington or California because I'm in the past 3 years I'm just working on the Red River, New Mexico area and the Columbine area of Colorado, and now the Battle Lake area of Wyoming. And those are the only three spots, like I said before, we're not reactionary. And I haven't been to Washington, but I plan on going to Washington next summer, and also California up in the Sierras. I've got an area that I want to work next summer for a while up around the area of, they call it Clipper Mills. Yeah, Clipper Mills. But right now, I mean, I haven't even been to New Mexico since last year. So the last year and a half, I've been focusing pretty much on the Hans Peak and the Battle Lake, Wyoming area. That's where I've done all my work at.
Mr. Duffy 81 says, yeah, following the map. So I did it and found them as well. Student of Utah Sasquatch here from the old school. And then asks, do you ever speak to them when they're near?
No, I haven't done that yet because my belief is I'm letting them do it first because, and I really am. And if they do it, and I'm basing that on the years of study that I did and the research and the analysis of the Ron Moorhead Sierra Sound tapes, which I studied for years. And I even picked up, like I told Doc, if you really study the Ron Moorhead tapes from the Sierra Sounds, there's a phrase that is very, very highly prominent that they repeat a lot in their language or verbiage in those tapes. And one of them is huff waya waya, like samurai talk. I picked up on that because I've learned language linguistics and stuff as a SEAL too. And I heard them a lot of times in the Moorhead tapes say huff waya waya, huff waya waya, like that. And then they say to hide the wuff, to hide the wuff. And, it's that samurai gibberish that they throw around. But I don't know what that means, but I figure if they use it a lot, it's got to be a common phrase or some type of expression in their language. And I figured after a while of listening to Moorhead tapes, I heard that enough, and I heard them communicating the way they did. And during all that time that Ron was up there with his friend, I also got the impression irrefutably that these things wanted to tear them up or kill them or hurt them while they were up there that deep, 50-something years ago doing their research there. They could have easily done it, but they didn't. So that's another reason why I am convinced that they're not dangerous unless you piss them off. And that's another thing I agree with Mr. Duffy too, the emotion of your voice, because the animals, just to be honest with everybody, I've done it since I was a kid. I talk to animals. Like I had a fox, I named her Frida right there. I got video of her. She got to the point where I'd be sitting in the dark and she'd come up and sit beside me at arm's length in the dark and just sit there and look at me. I was like, what are you doing? And I'd talk to her like that. I'd go, hey, what are you doing? She'd just sit there like a dog, so talk to elk. I got some great video on my website of where I've got elk and mule deer males and a female coming right up to me in the dark while I'm talking to them. I just talk to them like I'm doing you. And I go, hey, like the moose, I called him Bullwinkle. I said, how you doing? Hope you're not in a bad mood. You know what I mean?
Please.
So, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, you let them know. I'm a firm believer that if you talk to an animal in a certain tone of voice, and I've seen a lot of other people do it, they know you're not a threat. And if you talk to them like Mr. Duffy was saying, with a good tone of voice where it's amicable and they know you're not a threat, and you don't do anything to light them off and you kind of calm them down. I mean, you guys see the video of the bull moose out in that meadow there by Hans Peak Lake that I took back in May. It was nuts because I couldn't believe how big he was, plus how close he got to me. And he sized me up and he didn't do anything. I mean, he just saw the picture, he bedded down. So, yippee-i-o-ki-yay, right?
Well, he makes an interesting point, like you just indicated. He says he treats them like my brothers, and I try as hard as I can to not have any fear. to prepare myself for another face-to-face. So it animals, as you indicate, and I think animals are pretty sensitive.
Yeah.
They get certain vibes off of humans.
Right. Yep. Well, it's just like we do. I mean, people get good and bad and medium vibes from other people. I mean, all of us, I'm sure, have had a situation in your life where, you're around someone where you're like, man or woman, either or, you're like, yeah, I don't know about this person. You know what I mean? So, or, hey, I like this guy or gal. You know what I mean? It's just that sixth sense and that built instinct we have.
We're talking to Dan Toth. He is the creator of this. I'll put this up here. The Bigfoot Investigative Group. We'll go back to the homepage up here. And you can find his site at BigfootInvestigativeGroup.com. We'll get into the conference next year, but in the process, as we indicated, Dr. Meldrum passed away here recently. And in the process of that, that's Dr. Meldrum. That's myself with Dr. Meldrum. If you ever saw his presentation, and if there were one thing, oh my God, if there were one thing that I could have taken away from the conference that I went to with you in May of this year, was Dr. Meldrum put on roughly a 2-hour presentation, an extremely deep, detailed dive into the Patterson-Gimlin film, and I can guarantee any normal human, rational human being is convinced after watching that presentation and watching the deep examination by an anthropologist of why it is that he believes that this is an accurate video. This is not a fake, nothing like that. I wish that I had had the ability to film that and present it to everybody, because I guarantee you at the end of the hour and a half, 2 hours that Dr. Meldrum made his presentation, you would have believed.
Yep.
And as we said, sadly, Dr. Meldrum passed away at the age of 67 not long ago. And you created a really nice video I'd like to play right now in tribute to Dr. Meldrum. So if I can, I'd like to play this right now, and then maybe you can comment afterwards. It's only about a minute and a half, but folks, I think this is very, very well done. An incredible video, and I think an incredible tribute to Dr. Meldrum himself.
Yeah.
I'd never met him before, except for that one day, and I think I would consider myself. I can go back up here, and I consider myself blessed to have met him.
Yep.
As we spoke before the show, sometimes you come across educators or people that are very intelligent. They're professors, they're doctors, things of that nature. And you can't really have a good rational conversation with them. They can be arrogant, and in any number of things like that. Dr. Meldrum was extremely gracious, giving of his time, spoke in a fashion that you knew exactly that he was aware of all of his information, spoke from a viewpoint of anthropology, explained in great detail about the type of feet, the castings, the imprints, and here's why I believe that it leads to this is a cryptid, went into his numerous casts. This guy was very giving of his time, took questions. This man was kind, gracious, intelligent, and a great speaker. Everything that you would want in someone who is giving a presentation that you're interested in, and everybody that was there and will be in the future next year was interested in all of that. It was a blessing to him. And I'm glad that we took that 2,100-mile trip just to see him for one day. For
Absolutely.
me, it was worth it.
Yep. Yeah, you can't say enough about him. I mean, in the 3 years that I knew him personally, I got to admit, he was beyond, my grandma used to say when I was little, when they made you, they threw away the mold. Sure, old school people heard that one. And Doc Meldrum was one of those people. That's all I can say. And I'm still kind of shell-shocked, being honest with you, that he's not with us. Because, like I said, I was with him at his lab at Pocatello at Idaho State on July, 15th, 16th, and 17th. Even went out to dinner with him before I drove back to Denver, and was with his wife, him and his wife, Lauren. So, it's just one of those things that happened. It was a shock. And thing is, I'm going to dedicate what I do at BIG. I've already made it clear to my staff and other people that I'm going to continue doing this. And my main goal and desire and impetus for this is to get up close and personal with these creatures and interact with them to some degree and document it where there's some legitimate, valid, irrefutable, and tangible proof that they exist. I mean, and I'm sure that the way things are going, I get the impression that with what I'm doing, based on a lot of Dr. Meldrum's input and teaching, training, and recommendation over a couple of years, and working with him like a lot of other people have, not just me, but it seems like it's really moving in the right direction. We're really getting incredible results, and we're getting closer. And I see the possibility and the development of that possible interaction up close and personal developing over a period of time. So that's why I'm going to go back out there again, because I guess they closed the road out there for the winter, and I want to go out there a couple more times before they close the road, and it gets like 50 feet of snow up there between now and next March. So, yeah, Mr. Duff, yeah, I was at the Bigfoot, or the Bigfoot days in April. I had a booth there with my friend, Pat. He's on our staff too. You can see him on our website.
Here's James Harbin again, says or asks, can they, or are they, or is there any kind of a history of Bigfoot being violent, and yet perhaps another group rescuing these people? My first guess is Bigfoot, Sasquatch are like humans. There are some that are cranky, and there are some that are nice, so to speak.
Yeah, the only incident that I'm aware of on those lines, it was actually, I think it's still out there. The Clipper Mills incident, I think it happened like 13, 14 years ago, where a young couple were going up to camp with their camper and their truck, and they had their boat in tow, and they were up in the Sierras, and they broke down, and they were in the back of the camper in the middle of the night, and they were talking, filming it. You could see it was on night vision. They had a couple dogs with them, and you could hear, anybody with half a brain knows, you could hear these screams and howls and wailings in the distance. There was 3 of them, I believe. And there was also some dogs barking in the distance. And the dogs in the back of the camper with the guy and a young guy and his wife, she was actually sitting there on the chair or on the bed in the camper with her nightgown on. And you could tell she was getting really nervous. And the dogs didn't make a sound. The 2 dogs were just hunkered down, like, gave me the impression like these dogs were saying, I don't want any part of this shit. Be blunt about it. And that's the only one I know, and I don't know of anything where they were ever attacked or anything like that. So I don't know anything about that story, but one that sounds familiar to it was the one that you can still see it online. I think it's on YouTube still. Watch it because it's a really incredible video, because I think they filmed it or recorded it in the back of their camper. I think it was for more than an hour, if I remember correctly. But that's the only one I'm aware of on those lines. And I didn't know of anybody ever having an incident like that where a young couple got attacked.
Well, let's talk about next year's conference. That's going to be in Coeur d'Alene, July through the 26th. And you're going to be here speaking. Larry Beans Baxter is going to be here speaking, and Jonathan Easley is speaking as well. Larry Baxter has his own, let's see if I can get this out here, has his own YouTube channel.
Yeah, Last Squad.
And there he is also. So he will be at the conference next year. And then there's also Jonathan Easley, Western Bigfoot Exploration.
Yep.
And I believe there's some information about him. Now, at the conclusion of this on Rumble, by the way, if you miss all the information, if you go after the show wraps tonight, and I don't think we'll be going more than about 10 or 15 minutes after this, after the show runs, I'll hit the show links and put them in the Rumble portion of this show. Go to rumble.com, then insert in the field BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show on the SHR Media Group. You'll find it. I trust you. You're smart enough. And you go there and enter this particular show, and I will have a list of all the show links. You can go there and look at them at great detail at your own convenience, and you'll find it only at Rumble. You won't find it anywhere else on YouTube because I'm not that smart, but I know how to make Rumble work, so to speak. There are a couple more photos that you sent, and maybe you can explain some of these photos. You sent this one, which is a really nice photo, as a matter of fact. Where is this, and why might this be significant?
Yeah, that's the area in the range that I work predominantly from that peak all the way back. In the Medicine Bow, that's Continental Divide out there at the Continental Divide. And it's a beautiful area, it is, but that's looking pretty much almost east and west for the whole area that I scoured and worked doing all this summer from May, even till now, because I'm going to try to make a few more trips out there between now and November when they close the road, because the locals are even the locals are opening up to me now, telling me that they've seen them. They've seen them come out at the edge of the lake up there when they're fishing and stuff. So that's the Continental Divide between Battle and Battle Lake out there on Route 70, which that's right at sunset. One of my favorite. I thought that was a beautiful picture, so I snapped it. And that's pretty much a good picture of what we call our AOI that I worked this summer, area of interest. So, and that's a nice facility up there too, at that Continental Divide tourist facility. You can take horse trailers up there, hiking, everything, and they've got some nice, nice parking area, restrooms, and it's the only place out there you can get cell service. That one little bubble. Anywhere else you go out there, you might as well, unless you're taking pictures and stuff, your cell phone's worthless. But that's Continental Divide, Medicine Bow.
Okay, and then what is the significance of this photograph? Beautiful
Well,
lake.
I'd like to give everybody a little bit of detail here, and maybe you can help me with your pointer and cursor.
I wish I could point it at this photo, but it doesn't allow me to do that, doggone it.
All right, well, this is the place where I took the video in July of the male and the female peeking at me. And when you look at the video on my website, Tree Peaker, Medicine Bow, if you look at the lake there and follow the water over to the right at the top where the shoreline, and then you come down from the right side of the lake and you see that little bend where it's green and it looks clear behind the pine trees there. And it's kind of like a faded green open area. See it there on the right side of the lake?
Okay.
All right. Well, for viewers, when you come down the shore or the bank of the lake there where it bends on the right side, it's flat at the top and then it bends like and comes down to the trees. That little pack of 3 or 4 trees there that makes that gap right at the bottom of that little arch is where the male and the female were standing when you see them in the video. And when you go down there and measure the height of that tree where he was at, he was probably more than 9 feet, 8 to 9 feet tall. Because when you see him between those trees in the video and the signature of him on my thermal on my website, you'll see how big he is. And then he takes off with her over to the left along behind the trees. But I put that there just so you could see the size of him. So if you remember that spot and then look at him on the video, and then I've got other video and pictures of the same spot with like other animals walking through there. And when you see the size of them compared to the video the night that he tree peeked at me down there with his wife, you're excuse my French, you're going to go, holy shit. I mean, look at the size of that son of a gun. He's big, which is where I got the term big for the name of our organization. So just use that as a reference and keep that in your mind's eye for when you look at the video that I made on the thermal. There you go. That's that. So that's how Battle Lake, and Thomas Edison was fishing there according to the monument, and he pulled some filament off of his cane pole and got the idea for making the light bulb from it. That's what the monument says. It's crazy. So anyway, it's a gorgeous place. So that's Battle Lake, and that's where that sighting took place.
The phone lines are open right now. Phone line singular. Okay. Not plural. Good God, I'm not that I'm not that rich to have phone lines. Yes, I have a bank of 30 phones for all the people dying to call in. No, I just have one phone line. So if you're interested, look at the bottom right here. You can call me. It's 835-332. And in the meantime, what I'd like to do is have Dan Toth, and again, thanks for being here. I'd like to have Dan talk to us about what is coming maybe for next year. And maybe you can tell us about Larry Baxter, maybe a little bit about Jonathan Easley, and what you hope to get out of the conference, the B.I.G. Bigfoot Investigative Group Conference next year in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, in 2026.
Yeah, when the what we plan on doing is it's going to be a 3-day event this year, starting on Friday, July 24th. And that night, we're going to have a social cocktail happy hour get together, probably at the Best Western Plus. And then on Saturday morning, the 25th, we're going to open the doors at the conference room where we're holding the event at 8 a.m. and then start the event at 9 a.m. And Larry's going to speak first, and then we'll have a lunch break, and then Mr. Easley will speak, and then I'm going to speak last. And then we'll have a question and answer session in the afternoon, and then call it a day. And then we're going to come back for the second day, on Sunday morning, the 26th at 9. We'll open the doors at 8 again, start at 9. But we're going to have workshops this year where you can get with one of the three of us. You pick out, like going to a football clinic, where you want to go, who you want to see speak. And we're going to do workshops with people. We'll do that for an hour or two. And then we'll take a little break, and then we're going to go right into an open mic, big story time with the audience. We want you have a 3-minute window. Each person will have 5 minutes. We'll do about 2 or 3 hours of, if you want to get up and open mic and tell your story about an incident or a sighting or event that you've experienced in your life, you'll be able to do it on Sunday afternoon after the workshops. And then we're going to have vendors there. We got a couple friends of Doc's that are going to come up, I think from Pocatello, and we'll have our stuff there. So it's going to be a nice event. It's going to be fun. And Larry and Jonathan have not given me the information on what they're going to speak about yet, and that's fine, because we've still got 9-10 months to go.
Oh, yeah. We got a while to go.
Yeah, but I'm going to do a review of what I do every year. I just do a review of all the highlights of all the video, the tree knocks, the audio, the stills, and the incidents and the findings that I experienced throughout the year doing all my work. So I just call it a big year in review 2025. Yep. Nice having you guys. Have a good night. I see you're bouncing out of here. As they say, thanks for being with us. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'm probably going to get there on Wednesday or Thursday just to set things up, and then plus have a little time to relax and do what I want to do. And then we'll have this thing July 24th, 25th, and 26th. And then it's going to be a good lineup, and we're going to miss Doc for sure. Of course, you and your wife will be there with a lot of other people. We're already getting a lot of input and a lot of response. A lot of people are saying they're going to come, so it's probably going to be a pretty good crowd, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's high end, and we want to keep it that way because that's just the impetus of the way we do things at Big. And I'm not saying that to demean anybody else, but based on the caliber of people with our background and the experience and everything that we have involved in this thing, I made the choice and the decision professionally when I started it as the director and the founder and the president, whatever, to keep it high end, and that's the way it's going to be. So, any Bigfoot enthusiast or researcher, anybody that's a curious layman, I highly recommend that you come, because we're going to do a thing for Doc Meldrum too to honor him, a little memorial thing too on Saturday morning when I kick the thing off on the 25th. Good. So that's it. That's the conference, pretty much Reader's Digest for next year.
Okay, before we go back and go to your website and whatnot, I'd like to have you, you're about to wrap up the season. So if you would recap what you're going to be doing and where you're going to be going, because sooner or later it's going to start some heavy snow here. And I've been hearing intimations to the effect that this is going to be, at least in the Pacific Northwest and northern United States, it's going to be a wet year and it's going to be a cold year.
Yeah. Well, when I went up there last week, if anybody's familiar with the area, when I drove over the snowy range from Centennial, and you drop down between Saratoga and Encampment, it snowed when I was going through up there. I was amazed. I mean, it was a trace snow. It was light, but still it was snow. And then when I dropped down on the other side of the snowy range, heading toward Saratoga to head into Encampment, there wasn't any snow. But when I got to my campsite last week, it dropped down to 38, 37.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty chilly. I was camping out there at my site. I mean, I carried a couple of bags with me. I've done it, but I stayed out there. I even had a black bear come up to my tent whatever. I think it was Thursday night. Yeah, Wednesday night last week. Yeah, and then that was pretty neat. Had good tracks around my tent the next morning when I got up, but he woke me up in the middle of the night. But yeah, it's getting kind of chilly out there, and they closed the campgrounds for the winter too. So if I go out there, I'll probably stay in a lodge or a hotel close by and just drive back and forth to the AO. So yippee-i-o-ki-yay, right?
So the invitation is out, and I'm here. I'm BZ. That was Dan Toth. Let me go here to the website that Dan has and refresh your memory.
Yeah.
Bigfoot Investigative Group next year conference 2026. It's going to be at the Best Western Plus in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I go there for the salad bar. I kind of like the restaurant a lot, but it's a great place to go. Got a pool, got a hot tub, got a really nice room for the conference. A lot of nice people there. It's Idaho. Of course there's nice people there. Not like California, comma, parenthesis, you
Exactly.
cheese. So pizza, end of parenthesis. So everyone is invited. Now, this is not the end of it because Dan Toth has an open-ended invitation here in the saloon. So depending upon whatever it is that Dan discovers in the next week, 2, 3 weeks, month or so, Dan's going to be back. And then, of course, we'll have Dan on periodically to just talk about what's going on, what's occurring in the Bigfoot community, any discoveries that he's made, and of course to talk about the upcoming B.I.G. Bigfoot Investigative Group conference next year.
Hey, if we have time, real quick, can you run that quick tree peaker Battle Creek video? Is that possible?
Sure, if you tell me where to go.
Yeah, go on the website up at the top in the media link.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, open that up on the website like you had it.
Pictures or files?
Pictures, media. It says media.
Yeah, right.
And then click on that and you'll see pictures.
Okay.
That's the video. Click on that.
Let me put this up here now.
Yeah, and then just scroll down till you see the tree peaker one. They're labeled. A little more. Well, I think you passed it. Go back.
Oh, okay.
Go back slower. Where did that thing go up a little bit more?
Here's mule deer, night moose encounter, tree knocks.
Up a little, up again. Yeah, there it is.
Tree peaker. Okay, let's
yeah, yeah. So this is the tree peaker. Real quick, you want to see this?
Okay, let me turn this down and you up.
Yeah, there you go. There he is, the red dot. That's his head on the thermal. And you can see that's the spot in the picture with the shore. Right there, that little dot, that's him. Watch him. He'll go to the other side of the tree. He's going to, and I'm changing it on my thermal so you can see the different spectrums. He goes to the other side, right about there he is. And then boom, then he takes off. See him take off? And then you see the female go with him. There she goes. So yeah, that's the tree peaker. That's him. And like I said, that spot where he's looking at between those trees, the top of them, That's about 9 feet. He's got to be standing at least 9 feet there, just so you know. It's incredible. So that's the tree peeker video from July. That's crazy. You can see how fast he moves. There's nothing out there. Animals don't stand upright. Not only that, if he was a bear, he'd have a round head. You could see his ears, and you know what I mean. But at that spot where he's standing in that video, he's got to be at least 8, 9 feet tall, easy. That's the tree peeker from July. So,
well, again, thank you for being here. Thanks to the people that were in chat. Thanks to the people that were watching live.
Yep.
Also on KLRN, there are folks watching live right now. Thanks to all of you. You will be on again.
Definitely.
And Unpleasant Blind Guy asks a pertinent question. Will the talks be video conferenced to the hot tub room?
You mean when in Coeur d'Alene next July?
Yeah, he's nice dream, nice try.
Yeah.
I sadly doubt that's going to be happening.
Yeah,
What?
maybe
It's a great damn thought.
Talk to your wife about that. That's funny. No, that's funny. No, it's hilarious. So we're looking forward to it. And I was really happy and pleased to be on here again. I mean, bless you all and take good care, and look forward to seeing you again sometime. Hope you enjoyed it.
Unpleasant Blind Guy says, a man can dream, bro. A man can dream.
Hey, in this day and age, if you got the money, they can set up anything for you tech-wise, just about. So
sure.
Maybe get a GoFundMe account. Make that happen. I don't know. In the hot tub room, we got to remember that. So
it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's funny. That's a good sense of humor. So everybody have a good night. It was great being here. Dan
Toth, that was him. Thanks for being here. Thanks to everybody for watching the show tonight. I will replay it later. The podcast will be available. Give me about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and I will post the show both on YouTube and on Rumble. And to all that were here, I thank you for your time. Unpleasant Blind Guy. A lot of the people that were here were very happy with the presentation because it's not a standard political show. Appreciate the show. And thanks kindly to everybody for being here. So I don't have any outro music. It's a different kind of show, but I will say this. Everybody, I will be here next Tuesday. And I'm thinking, because there's so much more politics going on these days, I'm thinking about doing a show tomorrow night if Jersey Joe does not, and or if he is here, I may do a show on Saturday or Sunday, because all this stuff is going vish right by my head, and I'm dying of politics here, folks. It's what I do. Anyway, on behalf of Dan Toth and B.I.G, the Bigfoot Investigative Group, thanks to everyone who was here tonight. Everyone, God bless. Take care. Be safe.